I remember going to the Sukkot gathering, and I remember talking with April and Jeremy on their porch, and she was talking about the magic, I was telling her that it felt like Christmas, just felt like all my like childhood desires like wrapped up into this festival. And she was like, well, some say that Sukkot feels like Christmas. Well, we say that Christmas feels like Sukkot, and I was like, what the heck does that mean? Like, and I started to like really desire for more. And I went home and I remember reading, and I started pressing into Leviticus 23. I ended up reading a book by Booker called Celebrating Jesus in the Feasts, in the Biblical Feasts. And it opened up my eyes. And, I had year after year, we would do this Seder meal, this Passover meal, and it felt like the culmination of my faith. It felt like this annual rhythm of me like getting like formed into a son of the Father and into like a follower of Jesus. Like I felt like solidarity with him. And I remember like when I got introduced to Sukkot, it was almost like Jesus was seen as his sacrifice in the Passover, but then his like whole life, all of life that's available to you was meant to be like kind of seen in Sukkot. And so I came up with this, this is a visual that came from that book. And I just want you guys to kind of see this. This kind of changed my life and my perspective, where he said that there's essentially three journeys over the course of the year. And Brent and Katie talked about that the spring festivals essentially were Passover, unleavened bread and first fruits, and then Pentecost. And he framed it in this book as you get peace in the first three. You get peace over the Passover season. You get peace with God. And so that ultimately is what the sacrifice was for. On Pentecost, you get the power of God. And then on Sukkot, you get the rest of God. And he framed it and he said, this is actually the journey of the Christian. If you think of someone when they are actually progressing, they meet Christ, they encounter him, they get peace with him. And then over time, they experience and get the Holy Spirit, and now they have power available to them. And then ultimately, over the course of your life, you learn how to rest in God to the culmination of being one with him. And then it's also this like redemptive narrative. And so what's fascinating is these 7 feasts, they essentially unlock an annual rhythm of forming this into us, into our year. And I don't know about you, but like I have we were talking earlier, formative memories, core memories that come from the annual rhythms of growing up. If you think about your holidays, as we shared earlier. And so I think these have tremendous power. And for someone, I actually have ADHD. And so it's easy for me to forget, like, what are we doing here? What the heck are we doing here? Why are we like the same week after week? Kind of feel like you're on a treadmill. And then this annual rhythm kind of activates for me that like, oh, it's the Feast of Trumpets coming up. Jesus is actually coming back someday. In the midst of all of this, the King is coming. Oh, it's the Day of Atonement coming. Like this sin will ultimately be ridded from my life and from the world someday. There will be complete cleansing of the earth. Oh, Sukkot is coming. Like I feel exhausted right now, but there is hope. Like he is actually coming. There's a wedding coming where the groom is coming for the bride. And so this beautiful reminder, annual, was not just an annual rhythm for us, but it actually got to form in us. What does it mean to ultimately be a Christian? So that kind of awakened this discovery